a khat tree, which is from Somalia, and it's a medicinal plant. It's used by the Somali people to give them a sense of well-being. And here we have a classic case of somebody using a machine without realizing that this tree is a good tree to keep. And we've got a bit of damage here, so we're gonna heal this damage, be tree doctors, and I'll just explain what I'm doing. So you've got the bark of the tree, and just under the bark of the tree there's something called the cambium layer, and that layer is the crucial layer of living tissue that if you were to cut right through all the way around, it would actually ring bark and kill that particular stem. So because this has only been partially cut through, we have a whole entire side which is in fact still intact. So the cambium layer is intact under there, and if we take that up, we'll be able to encourage it to heal itself. So we'll be able to save this whole branch. So what I have here is some simple cheap plumbing tape, which I usually use instead of grafting tape because it's cheaper and does the job just as well. And we start off just by tying this to one end, one side of the wound. Then we've got our tape, and then you're just wrapping it around, keeping it tight, so pulling as you wind, and then as you get to this, just got to match it up as best you can. It's very similar to a grafting, like if you're grafting a tree, that's all you're doing is trying to match up the faces of the cuts and the cambium layer. Well, in this case the cambium layer is actually already intact, so because essentially the leaves, being such an important part of the plant, they're both solar panels and water pumps. Mm-hmm. So there are holes on the bottom of every leaf called stomata, and every morning or during the day, depending on the temperature and the weather, they're releasing water to keep the leaf cool, and so essentially that increases the water requirements of any plant. And so because it's going to help it heal, to reduce the transpiration, to reduce the amount of water being pumped through, then I'm going to actually remove some of these leaves. And not only that, it's going to decrease some of the weight on the actual top part of the plant, so it's less likely to catch the wind and less likely to be under stress to damage that joint. Mm-hmm. So as long as that, it's going to wobble around, but as long as that cambium layer on this side and the bark is still intact, the whole thing will heal itself. And this plumber's tape is kind of non-slip, so you pull it and it doesn't slip as easy as if it was untied, because just tying it through once should actually be enough. And then we'll get our stake. And the prevailing wind at the moment is pretty much been coming from the southeast. So I'm going to stake it on that side. You usually do like a cross loop whenever you tie plants. So you actually do a figure of 8, and then because that reduces some of the friction on the plant, and then come round the stake again and tie it off. I could actually take you for a walk and show you the last thing I did this to. The tape isn't going to interfere with the tree, and like with grafting tape usually, and we'll go below the graft, below the so the flex is actually lower than the actual damage. And we'll straighten it up a little bit. So that's pretty sturdy. Like, I mean, the stake could be better, but that'll survive most wind. And then I'm gonna just trim off like half of the leaves, not take off whole leaves. But often if you're transplanting seedlings, if you just take off half leaves, it's enough to cut down the transpiration but still allow photosynthesis to take place, because you've got to find the balance between the two. These are solar panels and they're creating energy for the plant.
What's the transpiration?
Transpiration is where the water getting pumped up through the tree during the day is pumped out through the holes in the leaves, the stomata, to cool the whole plant down in the sun. Yeah, otherwise, but what happens is, like if the water levels in the ground reduce right round and there's not the right capacity of water in the soil, then transpiration still takes place, and that's what causes wilting. Like, wilting wouldn't happen if there wasn't this transpiration going on and water leaving the leaves. So any plant that's under drought stress, the best thing you can do is actually cut it right back. And that's going to preserve its water source, whatever little water there is in the ground, and keep it alive longer. There's some tamarillos on the hill over there, and they were all wilting really badly, and two of them I cut them back almost down to the ground, and they're the only two alive now. The others just died because the transpiration kept on happening and they just wilted and died.
Cool.
But the two that I cut back are actually looking really healthy, and now they're coming away strongly with new shoots from the base. So yeah, it's just once you understand the mechanism of the plant and how it's working, you can work to preserve its life in extreme conditions. This being one of them, getting hacked. Yeah, there's multi benefits of cutting this. It ensures there's still photosynthesis on the branch, but reduced water loss and reduced wind resistance, which is probably just about the most important of the reasons. You don't want to have it catching big gusts of wind and take that whole leaf off. Yeah. Okay, so if anyone wants to take a walk, we can go and have a look at the results of the last time I did this. You can also make a poultice. I've had success with particularly comfrey. Like, you can make a comfrey salve and just dress the wound, and then before you wrap it, and that'll encourage the healing. Well, that would be the best thing, comfrey.
How would you make that poultice?
Probably, you mash the leaf and mix it with some beeswax or something.
Okay. Cool.
Pretty much, this wasn't much bigger than what we've just looked at. And you can see there was a whole crook branch that was actually split right open, and this at that stage, yeah, it was half the size or less at the time, but it's only like maybe 6 weeks ago that I did it, 6 or 7 weeks ago. So I wrapped it up just like we saw and put this stake in there so the whole thing was propped up, and what had happened is it had split down here, and it was actually the fattest, mainest stem that was down on the ground. This was just a little shoot at that stage. And now this has come away super strong, it's all healed in there, and the whole thing's bulked up twice the size, and it's been through 2 cyclones
Yeah, it's good.
So, hope you got something out of that.
That's a wrap.
It's a wrap.